Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aligning with Purpose, a podcast where we explore themes of finding your true purpose, from quitting corporate, moving cities, practicing holistic health, and more. Join me as we discover our purposes together. My name is Juli, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Aligning with Purpose. Today, we're going to be talking about decision making and why decision making is extremely important to every single person on this planet. And I say this because according to research and Psychology Today, we make around 35,000 decisions in a single day. And that roughly calculates to 2 decisions per second or 2,000 decisions per hour if you're not including the time that you're sleeping. I was doing the research and I was thinking there is absolutely no way we're making that many decisions. But if this research is true, then even on a, I don't want to say subconscious level, but even when we're not fully conscious of it, we're making decisions on the fly. It could be from what clothing you're going to wear. It could be when you want to brush your teeth in the morning. It could even be taking a sip of water or not taking a sip of water in the morning, right? So every single decision passes through our mind, and it's so important for us to be conscious of our decision-making skills. So today, I really want to talk about the importance of not overthinking and how to trust yourself a little bit more in your decision-making process, because this is something that affects us every single day, and clearly it is a big part of our everydays. So before we get into today's topic, I want to start off with our Beauty and Humanity segment, and I believe it was around a week ago. The New York Knicks won the NBA championship. And, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am not a huge sports fan by any means at all. But just being surrounded in the energy in New York City, and a city where I've just grown to love so much, a city that I call home now, it was so exciting to be a part of this experience here. I did a watch party with a couple of my friends, and we went to West Village. There were 2 projectors that were projected onto the side of apartment buildings, and just to see thousands and thousands and thousands of people get together for this moment was just a reminder that something like a basketball game was connecting all of us together. I have to be honest, when I was there, I definitely was a little bit overwhelmed. There were a lot of people there. There's a lot of energy, but I'm super glad that I was able to be present with my friends, and even seeing the footage of New York coming together the next day and seeing everyone collectively celebrating together. I thought that was such a beautiful moment for humanity. So cheers to us coming together collectively more often and to celebrate together, because those are the moments where you see how precious life really is. Decision making is a huge part of our lives. And as I mentioned in the intro of today's podcast episode, we make on average 35,000 decisions in a single day. So obviously some decisions are going to be small, but some decisions are going to be big ones, right? And if you can think back to your life and the big decisions that you made, whether that was choosing which college you want to go to, whether you want to change jobs or careers, whether you want to move to a different city, whether you want to end a relationship, or whether you want to have kids one day, we are constantly making decisions in our lives, and inevitably, some decisions are going to be really big ones that we feel that make a really big impact on our futures. So today, I really want to talk about why being indecisive wastes your time, and how to trust yourself a little bit more in making decisions in a timely manner. I'm not saying make irrational and quick decisions where you're not thinking through things, but it's important for us to be able to trust ourselves a little bit more, because the more decisions we make, the more answers we have, the more clarity we have to know what's right for us in moving forward with our lives. When you are indecisive with your decision making, you postpone your life, you remain stagnant, you miss out on your life because you're not making those decisions, and effectively you prolong your results. Not making a decision at all will leave you with a lack of clarity. And that lack of clarity is going to keep giving you the same result because you're not making any action on what you can be doing. But on the other hand, if you were to make a decision, because you took the next action step, you're going to have more input and more information to go off of. So that's going to get you more clarity and you're going to have a new result, right? So whether that result was favorable or not favorable, you're going to start moving forward so you can continue to make more decisions to get to where you want to be. So to make a decision, it doesn't require any clarity or certainty at all, because making the decisions itself is going to give you clarity and the certainty. I've been so stuck in a lot of my life because I felt like I needed to know all the answers to make a decision, because I felt like I needed to have more clarity before making the decision. But in reality, making decisions was the thing that was giving me more clarity and certainty in the end. So I know that is a hard concept to put into practice, because I am also someone who ruminates sometimes on the big decisions that I need to make in my life. And I still do that. Even 2 weeks ago, when I was deciding if I wanted to change my job, I kept thinking about it without making that decision because it felt like my life was riding on it, right? However, making the decisions is what gave me the clarity to know that it was the right decision instead of thinking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Because in reality, when you just keep thinking about it, your reality doesn't change and you just stay unhappy and stuck in where you are. Another point that I want to bring up is that decisions and choices are neutral. And this is a concept that was very, very new to me when I was getting coached. Right and wrong are just labels that we create as human beings. And there are only choices that we make. So when we label a decision as right or wrong, that's because we now have the clarity and we have the knowledge to label it as such, right? If you didn't make any decision at all, you're not going to know what was right or what was wrong because you just don't know what the future holds for you. However, if you did make that decision, then you're going to have more insight to be like, oh shoot, that was the wrong thing that I did, or that was the right thing that I did, and I'm so happy with what I did. But to get to that point, there's a gap. That gap is making that decision. So in reality, the decision itself is neutral. And there's only the choices that we make, and we as a species just label them after the fact. And let's say you quote unquote made the wrong decision and you have a lot of regret in what you chose. I'm here to say that regret is just only going to hold you back and keep you from moving forward. You made the best decision with what you knew and the tools that you had in that moment, and you can't change the past. The past is the past, and you can only change the future moving forward. So all you need with the wrong decision that you made is a new perspective. What did you learn from the wrong decision, quote unquote, that you made? And why did it make sense for you to have chosen that quote unquote wrong decision at that time? Because we never intend to make quote unquote the wrong decision for ourselves. We always want to do the right thing for ourselves, but sometimes life just doesn't work out that way. So why did it make sense for you in the moment to make that decision, and where can you give yourself some grace in, right? What are the things that you can take away from so you can keep moving forward to make more decisions for yourself that could be better for you? Ultimately, sometimes making the wrong decisions help you grow, because if you always made the right decision and if you're always on that high from making a good decision, then you don't have the contrast to understand what it could be like and what you don't like. At the end of the day, if you want a new result and you want to keep moving forward with your life, then you have to make decisions to get there, whether that's going to be right or wrong. There's always going to be the illusion of comfort. And if you don't know what the illusion of comfort is, it's when you just stay stuck because you are too afraid to keep moving forward because you don't know what that new chapter holds for yourself, right? And the truth is, staying stuck is also uncomfortable. So let's say you are at a job that you really dislike. Are you going to stay stuck there and be there for months and months and months on end because you are too afraid to see what else is out there for you and make a new decision for a new result that could potentially be really great for your life? Or are you going to take that risk and put yourself out there because you value the life that you could create and the dreams that you can really achieve if you put your mind to it and if you make the decisions to get you those results? It's ultimately up to you to make those decisions, but you have to know that comfort isn't always a good thing. There's always going to be an illusion that comfort is there to protect you, but being comfortable can be uncomfortable too. I want to bring up a quick story from 2 weeks ago. And I just got a new job as a server at a new private club. And prior to this, since I moved to New York, I have been at the same restaurant for a year and a half at this point. And I stayed there because it was comfortable. I had a good work schedule. I worked Monday through Thursday, and the money wasn't bad for a part-time job. It was paying my bills, and it was a pretty good gig. However, I started to become unhappy because there was a lack of management, and the money did start to dip because lack of management, quality was going under a little bit, and there were different things that were just not ideal for my work situation. So I had the opportunity to obviously make a change for myself. Was I going to stay stuck here while I build out my coaching business? Or do I want to change my situation so I could be happier at a new place while I create my coaching business? There were so many thoughts that were running through my head during this time because I had so many things to worry about, right? I have to waste time job searching now. I have to waste time learning a new menu. I have to do all these things that would take away time from coaching. So it was easier for me to stay. But it was at the expense of my happiness. And I dreaded going into the restaurant every single day. So I knew that I needed to make a change. And then that fear started to creep in. Was I going to get fired right away? And that's something that I need to work through because that's a deep-rooted fear and scarcity mindset thing that, has been in the back of my head. But all these negative thoughts were in my head. Would I not like it here? Was I going to be in a worse situation? But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have known whether or not I am happy here if I just didn't take the leap of faith. Because in reality, if I had stayed where I was at, then that would have been uncomfortable too. And I had to be really honest with myself to make any decision at all to keep moving forward with my life. And I know it seems like such a small decision because this is just a job, right? It's not like I'm making a big career change or I'm not doing anything very significant maybe. It's just a job. My career is coaching and my focus is coaching. But in the moment when you feel like it takes up so much of your time, you can magnify your decisions so much more. So it's important to not let your mind spin sometimes and allow yourself to ground down and to know that you're safe in your body to make those decisions, and you can trust yourself to make the right decisions. Because for the last couple weeks, actually, I want to say a month because it took me a month to apply, interview, and do all the things. But the point is, sometimes you just have to sit with yourself and not let your scarcity mindset, not let your fear, not let all the negative things that your mind is telling you to overtake the decisions that you could be making for yourself. Your brain is there to protect you, and it is there with the best intentions, right? And it's trying to protect you from any harm. So the fear comes through, but just know that it's okay to make decisions. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to be in situations where you might want to get out of, because then you'll make more decisions that are favorable to you and you'll come back out with all the life experience to make more informed decisions the next time you go through it. There's obviously going to be so many other scenarios that are going to be more impactful in your life, right? Maybe it's moving or staying. That's also a decision that I had to make a year and a half ago when I was moving from LA to New York. And there was a lot of fear the last 3 months before I moved because I hadn't made a move as an adult by myself ever. So naturally, all this fear was creeping in. Am I going to be okay without my family? How am I going to make friends? What is my community going to be like out there? Am I actually going to be happy? Am I going to be lonely? And that was just my brain trying to protect myself. But sometimes you just have to keep working past those fears and know that if you stay because of the fear, you're not going to get the result that you want because you haven't experienced the other side of things. Now I can confidently say that now that I've moved here, I have grown in so many other ways just because I took the decision and that leap of faith. I've grown to trust myself a lot more. I've learned to really enjoy myself, my own company, and to listen to my voice a lot more. And those are things that might not have come as quickly if I stayed in LA, right? So ask yourself when you have to make a big decision the next time, are you operating out of fear? Are you operating because you're scared and you don't want to cross the threshold of discomfort? And if so, what small decisions can you make to keep pushing forward? Because if you stay where you are and it's something that keeps coming up in your mind, then you know that there's a change that needs to happen. We have so many different emotions, we have so many different thoughts racing through our head that prevent us from listening to our gut more. When you are caught between really tough decision making, take a moment to ground back down into your body and to get comfortable in your own energy, because it's so important to regulate your nervous system. And then from there, you can listen to your gut a little bit more, because your gut is something that is powerful, but it is something that can be buried under your fears, your emotions, your thoughts. And when you're operating from fear and emotion and all of that, you won't be accurate in what your gut is telling you, because you're going to assume that your mind is what your gut is telling you. So it's important to be able to just fully detach and to regulate before you make a decision, if that's what you need to do. And I know that there's also going to be decisions in our lives that are naturally going to take a little bit longer, because we have to really think through what's right for us. And although I said that making a decision is going to give us more clarity, there are certain decisions that we are going to want to think through a little bit more carefully. So let's talk about how we can be a little bit more effective with our time when we do come across a decision where it feels like there's more weight to it. When we have a decision that has more weight, let's say it's about moving and you have a whole family that you have to uproot. Are your kids going to miss the school that they're going to get? How are they going to integrate into a new school system? Or maybe it's, I need to leave this relationship because I'm unhappy, but I also fear what the future holds for me, and you are dancing between two choices. When you're stuck in a situation like this, where it's a little bit heavier, get curious about why it's weighing on you. Why is this decision something that is heavier? And answer that question truthfully and honestly. And then keep going deeper, peeling layer by layer by layer. If it's the example of moving, maybe it's because you fear making a new community. Maybe you fear how your kids are going to acclimate. Then ask yourself, what fears do you have about your kids acclimating or you finding a new community? Is it loneliness? Is it bullying? And then once you get to the root of those fears, after you get curious with yourself, then ask yourself, is this scenario actually likely to happen? Is it really likely that I will stay lonely forever? And what tools do I have to actually change those situations? If it's about your kids, what if they do get bullied? What can I do as a parent to change that situation for them to make sure that they are safe? Because chances are, whatever you're fearing, there's always going to be different tools and different things that you could tap into to make sure that you are mitigating all the bad things that could happen. And fears come because we are fearful of the things that could happen that haven't happened yet, right? The second thing you want to do is to decide when you're going to decide. I know that's a little bit meta, but you want to put a time frame on the decision that you have to make. If you want to move by fall, then decide when you're going to make that decision by. Are you going to stay and stick by that decision, or are you going to move and put that date to make that decision? Because the longer you ruminate and the longer you don't create clearer timeframes for yourself, then your mind doesn't have anything to grasp to know that it's a solid plan for yourself, right? You are ultimately the one that should be in the driver's seat, and you should be the one that has full agency of your life. And sometimes it's so easy to be victim to our situation and to give more power to the things that shouldn't have more power, right? So I'm going to leave everyone with a closing note and a question. Will you get what you want by making comfortable choices? Are you going to be able to live the dream life that you want to create by not making any decision at all? Because at the end of the day, sometimes discomfort is the price of admission for living the life that you want to live. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast episode. You can find this podcast episode on Spotify, your favorite streaming platforms, or the video version on YouTube. I am also available on social media at aligningwithpurpose.pod and at Julioshi, JULIYOSHI. Thank you so much for supporting me, and it would mean the world if you could like, share, subscribe, comment, all the things on my platforms, and I look forward to seeing you again next Thursday.